right, good morning, everyone. We are here to discuss how AI and intelligence are going to intermerge with the concept of leadership. With me is a bunch of people who have built very, very powerful businesses using AI. And in so doing, they've created commercial capabilities that didn't really exist before, as well as bring in a level of consumer experience that in many cases was not even possible. In this entire journey, they've managed to make things that are cheaper and faster. All this comes with severe and extreme disruption to the way we lead and to the way we operate our business models. So without further ado, I'm going to jump in. I have some questions here. Knowing my own habits, we are going to completely go off script very quickly, and we look forward to a lively chat. So thank you all for joining. Really appreciate it.
Likewise, thank you.
I want to start with the entire area of AI disrupting and enabling new business models, right? So Harry, I'm going to start with you over at Heidi Health, because Heidi used to be a company, even in its earlier avatar as Oscar, in the pre-GPT era, right? So
that's correct, yes.
So I would love to understand, and given that you operate in the medical space, how has AI ended up changing your business model? What has it killed? What has it enabled? Would love to hear something around that.
Thank you, team, for having me here today. For those that I haven't met, my name is Harry. I am a pharmacist by trade. My co-founder, Tom, he's in the US today. He couldn't be here. He's a vascular surgeon. So we are a team of doctors, clinicians that come together back in 2019. Started off as building an AI bot. And I think there's a lot of experts on this panel here. Through some transformer model, it was terrible. There was a GPT 2.5 back in the day. Nothing works. We then hire a bunch of doctors to sort of create a knowledge graph back in 2021. So very heavily, a lot of resources, human resources, to gap what AI actually doing. And by the time the OpenAI started in 2022, 23, we then quickly noticed that the work that we are hiring over 100, 150 clinicians can we be replaced if we have our model fine-tuned at a much faster speed. So that's one part of it. And then when we launch our commercial direct-to-clinician AI ambient listening Heidi, we then gain from 100 sessions a week to over 1.5 million consults within 4 months. So now the problem we have back in the day is every conversation we would talk to our clinician, right? But now we ended up having about 8,000 feature requests a day. So then from that point on, and there will be a lot of people on this panel, we had to then tap into all the partners in the ecosystem. How do we streamline our support? How do we make sure that we have AI partners that can help us sorting out these requests, sorting out the emails without losing the human touch, and making sure that we always have our hand very close to the clinician voice and who's working on the ground. So what we have found is the trajectory of growth in AI hasn't been seen before. Similar to how the internet have moved into the market, we are now working with a new foundation of how the capital investment should be used and done within our own company while redefining the healthcare space. Yeah.
Great, thank you. I'm going to ask the other Harry at the moment, Harry at Level 3 AI. You guys have been doing this as well, and you've taken on with conversational AI the space of back-end and consumer management, which has been a very, very traditional space. Now, what's interesting in Harry's model is that they are across 16 countries, and I think now have to deal with 95 languages. First thing that I thought of was that could you even have the ability to serve in 95 languages before AI became as advanced as it did? So I'd love to hear about how the way you lead changed.
Prashant, thanks Prashant for the question. So at Level 3, we built conversational AI agents for enterprises across voice, chat, and email. First of all, we can't take all the credits for 95 languages. I think that's the foundation model has enabled that. And I think what we have make that more useful for enterprises is just for that specific question is building this logic that matches what user was saying to your multi-language knowledge base and to what you want AI agent to respond in. So this is when you operate in a code switching market like Hong Kong, there's no dominant language. So having that complexity is not something foundation model can do. But foundation model really enable that. I wouldn't even imagine we can do that 3-4 years ago. So that's to the first question. But in general, I think when we run an AI native company, we just have to realize, I think AI has compressed all the development cycles almost for every function of the company. We used to have these product manager, designer, and product lead spending 2-3 months building this prototype. And now one AI engineer can do that with his AI agents in a couple of days. So that's kind of the compression we are seeing right now, even just at our own company. I would say almost everything has been compressed, maybe just except 2 things when we build enterprise AI agents. One is how you do eval, how you do QA before you get your AI agent into production, and how you do monitoring after it has launched into production. And these are the 2 things I feel traditional software is a lot more controllable. I think in the AI agent world, it's just so probabilistic. You probably spend 10x more time on these 2. That everything else becomes so compressed. Overall, I think definitely AI just enabled like company like us in such a smaller scale to actually serve these large enterprises.
Thank
Wouldn't
you.
be able to do.
And Winston, you're looking at a model which is just very, very traditional. You're looking at real estate in an emerging market like Indonesia, and you're also solving for affordable housing and home ownership, which is a very purpose-driven but very traditional space. So given your on-the-ground experience in an industry as typical, as traditional as real estate, what has been some of your experience in deploying AI as a way to almost create a new business model altogether?
Thank you. Selamat pagi. Selamat pagi means good morning in Bahasa Indonesia. I just flew in from Jakarta last night to attend this conference. I'll give you some data point. First data point is in Indonesia today, there's 9.9 million housing backlog, which means that there are 9.9 million families who need a home, but they don't have a home, which translates into a population size of at least 50 million. So that's the size of the addressable market. Second data point, the percentage of underbanked or unbanked Indonesian numbers up to 70%, which means that 7 out of 10 people in Indonesia either have no access to financial services or they only have limited access to financial services like maybe just a bank account, but not the loan. As a result, many first-time homeowners in Indonesia are not able to own their first home because they are blocked at the bank mortgage level. So typically, the rejection rate from the bank is as high as 50% for every submission given by developer. So there's a huge opportunity for market disruption using AI. Why is that so? Is because in Indonesia, the banks are still using very traditional method to assess the consumer. For example, they ask for a payslip. They ask for, let's say, IRAS. In Singapore, we call it IRAS, the tax document. And third, maybe CPF. Unfortunately, for these underbanked who are mostly non-fixed income earner, like your entrepreneur, your Grab driver, your social media influencer, they don't have payslip. They don't pay tax. So there's a lack of verifiable track record of their income. And to address this trust deficit, there's opportunity for us to use AI technology to to create an alternative predictive score and credit scoring on this group of consumer. And thereby, we are able to then screen up the better quality one so that they are able to onboard the home ownership ladder and also be able to access financial services. So MilikiRumah, together with our developer partner, underwrite the first year of risk for all these consumers as long as they pass our AI. And we use our AI to continue to monitor them in the monthly payment so that we are able to prove to the bank that they are good customer even though they are not fixed income.
Which is really interesting because you are mitigating the risk for a traditional player, but you're also using AI as a way to extend the business model for the traditional financial institutions, right? You are becoming a new front end for them for acquisition, for a group of customers that they otherwise would not have been able to acquire given their own risk framework.
Yes. In short, today a typical Indonesian bank need at least 7 documents to process the consumer. But with our AI technology, we probably can cut down the document by 3. And we are able to predict with a higher level accuracy than the Indonesian bank. And thereby, we are able to even up the playing field between the fixed income and the non-fixed income. And also help to improve productivity for the bank. Whereby today, an average mortgage banker need about 1 month can only process 7 customers. But with AI technology, they are able to increase the output by at least 15 to 20 customers. So the whole gist of AI is we use past data to predict future behavior, not just looking at past data. So the more data we take from the Indonesian bank and the developer, the smarter our machine learning will be. And that's why we have been gathering lots of data points from both the bank and developer. And happy to say, today more than over 100 projects across Greater Jakarta are already using our AI technology, where within 10 seconds, they are able to tell whether the customer is bankable or not bankable.
I think that's fabulous. So with that, we'll pivot over to the broader area of business leadership, because leading in the age of AI presents a different set of challenges. Hiring the right talent, retaining the right talent, dealing with the constant change in business models. I, for instance, last year were on the founding team of a Gen AI-based startup. We very quickly scaled to 180,000 users, and then the entire underpinning tech and the environment changed. And we flamed out before we had the ability to pivot effectively. Now, how do you guys manage that? Let's start with you, Tiang. You are a very seasoned investor in this space. How do you understand these factors in your business decision making? How do you figure out the teams to invest in? As I said, people invest in the teams, not the ideas initially, because the ideas change many, many times. And then Shawn, will come to you as well.
Thank you. Tiang here. Just a quick one-liner on Analog Ventures. We are a Singapore headquartered seed VC investing in and around Southeast Asia and Singapore, working with the best founders we can find that are working on the most interesting ideas that they are working on, right? We're typically the first institutional lead into the companies, and we partner with founders really deeply to get things done, And coming back to that question, I remember very vividly the moment ChatGPT 3.3 or 3.5 was announced in November 2022. Immediately within weeks, the tone of boardrooms changed immediately, right? And if you remember that period of time, Check, which is one of the largest public ad tech companies in the US, their stock took a nosedive, right? 25% down, The immediate implication for a lot of education technology companies is such that what you spend the past 3 years investing in, building machine learning models, building doubt solvers, it's all irrelevant. It's all became a API call away, right? The value destruction was so quick that it was really amazing to watch, right? And very quickly, me and the founders that I work with develop a framework, right? Which is is concentric circles out, right? Number one, are you using AI, and how are you using AI, right? How many of you in the room are using ChatGPT? Claude, Gemini. I think in my humble opinion, everyone in the room should have your hands raised, because it is that urgent. You really have to try an experiment with it, right? And that was the urgency that I sent to all of my portfolio companies in the boardroom. If you don't try it, you will be disrupted, and disrupted some of that had been, right? The companies that really were successful in crossing the chasm from a pre to post GPT world are companies that are founders that really internalize that urgency, and they fundamentally retool not necessarily just the technology stack, but more importantly, like what Harry had said, your team stack, right? And this has also fundamentally rooted traditional software development, right? To give you an example, right? One of the companies I work with is a company called Vouch. It's a hotel management software. they used to have 15 engineers, right? Today they only have 5, and they don't call them engineers anymore. They call them builders, right? Because the distance between idea to MVP has just collapsed. That distance has shrunk immediately. There's no such thing as Scrum, daily standouts, and all that anymore. You just do not need that, right? Given the tools that are available like Cursor, Figma's getting intelligent every day. Livable's prototyping, speed is really, really awesome. So that's one. Secondly, it's one concentric circle ring out. It's, how do we, looking further out, invest in AI, right? And the boundaries of competitive modes continue to change, right? It started with, hey, if you're in ad tech, if you're working with a lot of knowledge-dense products and services, you get disrupted first. And very quickly, folks understand that LLMs, the value of LLMs is not in them able to write poetry, but the value of LLMs is them able to help you make decisions and take action. Hence, it's the movement from LLM to agentic, right? And if that's the case, right, what's the value of investing in software in any businesses is to really, going back to first principles in my view, backing founders with the insight in deep understanding in workflows, industries, founders who have taste and judgment that's unique, right? All those, they were true. I think they are truer today, and they will continue to be more true tomorrow, is a lens that we kind of use to look at assessing new opportunities, right? Thirdly, I think, MilikiRumah is quite interesting in this regard, which is, I'm actually really excited about thinking through how to use bits. So today, I think using bits to generate more bits is largely solved, right? You have Cursor, Vercel, Livable, right? I'm very excited to really understand how to use bits to move atoms. How to use bits to move atoms. What does that mean, right? Robotics, automation, how do you orchestrate logistics? How do you turn real-world data into actionable insight, right? And take action subsequently in the real world. So really thinking about not fighting AI, but really using it to enable and unlock new ways for us to interact with the world and hence generate new opportunities for all of us, right?
That completely makes sense. Shawn, now I know, like Tiang, you are an investor as well, but what many people don't know is that he's also built a company on the side, a gaming company, and I think it's gone from idea to App Store in 6 months. So how have you really thought about AI in business leadership, creation, and achieved this at that speed? I mean, I'm struck by Tiang's point on scrums, etc. are gone. Now you're just building at rocket speed.
So I think before I go into that, maybe I'll give a bit of background, right? So I'm a general partner at TRIVE Ventures, where we invest in early stage tech companies around the world. At the same time, I also run a company called Hyperbond Studio. It's an AI edtech company which has just launched its product called Call Me Sensei, and it's a language learning app basically powered by AI companions or AI boyfriends and girlfriends, because the best way to learn a language is by dating someone that speaks it. Right? I'm also an adjunct lecturer at a polytechnic in Singapore, and I cover topics in AI and finance. Right. So going back to your question, right? So I think the way that I understand it, I 100% agree with what Tiang has said. It was very very comprehensive in that regard, right? The way that I see leadership, or the way that I see investing in this space is, I think, in terms of green flags and red flags, right? I think fundamentally, when you talk about AI, and I think this tends to happen a lot in this in hot or hyped up fields, right? Is that when something is hot or hyped up, people generally like to change the narrative and say that they're something that they're not, right? So this used to happen for blockchain, right, a few years ago, and now it's happening to AI, where basic companies that are not AI companies are masquerading as AI companies just to force fit the narrative, right? I think it's actually very different, right? When you do something that you have always been believing in, versus like, force fitting a narrative to be something you're not, right? And I think investors can tell. Now, I think the other thing is also, as Tiang has pointed out, companies are getting smaller, right? The way that people are operating in this world is changing. It used to be a point of admiration when people said, I run a 5,000 person company, I run a 10,000 person company, right? But now efficiency is going up with AI. We don't need such large companies anymore, right? And I think, in terms of the way that we do things, there are two things that we do, right? To help avoid these kind of things. So first of all, I think curiosity, and I think second of all is adaptability, right? Curiosity is important because the tech changes day by day, right? What is relevant today is not relevant tomorrow. At the same time, if you're not curious enough, you won't learn about the new things that are happening, and these things won't even be on your radar. So awareness breaks, right? I think secondly, adaptability in the sense that you need flexible enough processes to try and adapt and learn new things, right? And more often than not, when something new is interesting enough for people to pick up, and I think early on we were talking about Cloudbot, Modebot, OpenClaw, right? I think this is also very interesting because more often than not, there is a certain value to these things, right? And it's only in trying and adapting and being flexible enough to adopt these things, do we find a better way that is faster, cheaper, and more efficient than ever before. So yeah.
That completely makes sense. Now, one of the things that a lot of people struggle with, and over at the Responsible AI Foundation, we find SMBs really struggling with the idea of which tools to use because there's so many and they keep changing, right? So, Harry, over with you guys at Level 3 AI, how have you tackled this? Do you standardize it? Have you learned some lessons around this? Do you set guardrails on who can use what? Or do you let your coders loose and say, build whatever?
Great question. I may not have an answer for you, but just like what Tiang was asking just now, do you use ChatGPT? Do you use Cloud? Do you use Gemini? Whenever we get a new person into the company, the person was using some different stack, different tools. Do we stop the person using that, use the company's ones? It's really a constant debate, to be frank. CodeX, Gemini Studio, or Cloud Code, like which one? Cursor, which one is your coding agent anymore? So I actually may not be the answer for everyone, but this is what I did to the team. I open all three for them. I open all three for every developer in the company. You can pick and choose, but I form a committee on top of it, 3 to 5 people, depends who has the time who want to join. In 6 months' time, the company will standardize one. I think today, I still feel it's still fast evolving. I think during fast evolving, it's actually very stressful. Oh, we don't want to fixate it on one, then 2, 3 months later, whole new set of feature capability came, then we miss out. But I also don't feel any technology will keep evolving. There will be a time is plateau. I think my judgments on that coding agent, I'll give it 6 months. So in 6 months' time, we'll standardize one.
Very nice. That completely makes sense.
So if you don't mind, can I ask a follow-up question? How do you interview engineers these days?
That's interesting.
That's a great question.
Yeah. And remember, Tiang is also trained as an engineer, so I think he's more curious.
I need an instant.
So there was one incident. Before we never thought about it. It's still the traditional way of interviewing. First meeting, maybe Zoom. Then when we do the first couple of meetings virtually, then when we met the person, this person is very different. It's very, very different from what we have the conversation over Zoom. Then we start suspecting maybe the person was actually using some AI tool while he was answering the question, because it's a different level of intelligence when we see the person versus the virtual meeting. So in that regards, we have moved a lot of the technical questions to in person rather than over Zoom call anymore. Yeah. We are still adapting. I don't know.
So one founder that I work with, she told me that now she interviews engineers even when on Zoom, but when she asks a question, she'll ask them to close their eyes. so that they can't look at the screen, right?
Interesting.
But on the other perspective, when we want to give like assignments, slightly more complex assignments to the tech candidates, they will actually ask us, am I allowed to use AI agents? I think in that regards, we have debated a little bit internally, and actually we allow it. But we will have a follow-up session, let you defend, and we will ask tough questions. You have to make sure you understand what your AI agent has written for you. I think if you can't defend it nowadays, I think we should encourage it, actually.
So I think this is the perfect segue into the entire area of balancing human judgment and automation. So let's start with you here real quick, Winston. Give us some use cases where human oversight is needed even as you're using AI for a business like yours to do all the selection criteria, the credit assessments. And does the human judgment element help or harm the fact that other institutions are looking at your scores as the definitive answer of deciding whether to extend loans or not? So do they get comforted by the fact that you have human intervention, or are they nervous that your humans may overrule machine-made indicators?
Thanks for the question. It's a very interesting question. When we started this big data and AI tech stack in Indonesia to help the country to solve its home ownership and underbank problem, we started off with the belief that AI cannot replace 100% of human. Yeah. So we think that our thesis is that AI can probably help to address 60 to 70% of the workflow, making the whole process of assessment more efficient, more accurate. But at the end of the day, we still need human intervention, because I think it's a combination of ethics and also a combination where, if you guys watch Terminator, we don't want to leave everything in the control of the machine. I grew up watching Terminator, so that's also another factor. So I give two use cases. The first use case is we started off using our AI prediction model on commercial housing. In Indonesia, commercial housing is not referring to shop, house, or office. It's referring to private residential property that is not subsidized by the Indonesian government. So we gather a lot of data points to improve our machine learning from both developer and the bank. And we have lined up more than 20 different data parameters to predict on whether this is a good customer or bad customer. And we attach weightage to it, and we do multiple back data testing with the bank and the developer. And we arrive at version 1.0, which we launched sometime last year, Q2. And we have a very good, accurate prediction of that, the consumer ability to pay and willingness to pay the installment. However, when we venture into subsidized housing in Indonesia are defined as housing that is below 185 million rupiah, that is maybe just 10,000 Singapore dollar per house. We realized, based on our human intervention, the kind of predictors for subsidized housing is very different from commercial. Had we leave it entirely up to the machine, we would have done big injustice or disservice to some of the consumers in the subsidized housing project. So that's one point of view where human intervention is always needed. The other point of view is the banks actually ask us, after they use our AI, can they just use that score to determine whether to onboard this customer or not? Our response to the bank is no. You should not absorb total responsibility away. We still think that the risk department, the credit department, still have the ultimate accountability to decide on the fate of the consumer. Our AI is meant to give them a point of view, but it's not supposed to replace the human decision. So that was what we told them. Of course, I know some of the bankers hope that when they push all the responsibility to the AI, should anything goes wrong with the consumer, they can blame the AI. But that's the last thing we want to do. We want AI to improve the efficiency, the accuracy, and make it better for everybody. But we cannot use AI to take over the accountability. You can outsource the task, but you cannot outsource the accountability. That's our belief.
I love that. And I think now, if you look at it in a medical context, Harry, this is interesting because medical is both powered by human judgment, and a lot of medical science is about human judgment, and it's back-ended with a lot of automation, a lot of diagnostic capabilities. I see Grace, founder of TalkTalk in the audience, and I'd love to, Grace, have you comment as well in the Q&A there. But how do you guys balance that? How does Heidi help begin to understand where does that magical interplay of human and machine judgments come into place?
So when we socialize our AI system with both developers and the bank, our thesis to them is use our system, but don't sack anyone. Let your risk department continue to be there. Let your credit officer continue to be there. But the main thesis for them to adopt our system is you have 100 mortgage banker. Instead of processing, let's say 700 per month, they can process 1,500. You are able to improve their productivity.
So clearly for you guys, it became a volume play. Now, Harry, for you guys, it was a volume play, but it was also more, right? So help me understand how you manage this.
Yeah, I think it's not much different, right? Either in housing, hiring engineers, or investing. I think the age of AI have come up with a keyword as we enter new market is trust is very important. Building trust is the first step. Maintaining that trust is even more important. And I come back to, I think Dr. Yu and Tiang will mention about how do you have that quality assurance process is so important, and regardless of how good your AI are. And I remember we would attend procurement with Sing Health or Hong Kong Hospital Authority or Malaysian Ministry of Health, Japan, you name it. We would then say, look, let's just say our AI is as accurate as 97%. Their question would be, what happened to the 3%? And the same thing going to say, even if it's 99.5%, they would ask, how are you handling that 0.5%? Because at the population health level, of billion of interaction in healthcare every day, what is the process? And I don't think truly we have answer or have a magic bullet for that process yet. So as of right now, coming back to the home panel, the AI tool we are using right now is mainly focusing on productivity. And it's justifiable because for productivity, there's still human oversight of that decision of how we're going to go forward. So for our clinical healthcare system, there are three things we don't do. We don't make diagnostic. We don't prompt a doctor down a certain path. So there's a lot of system, either telehealth or hospital come back to us and say, hi Harry, can we do live transcription? And while the doctor talking to the patient, can you prompt them what they should be asked next? Our position is no, we don't do that. We would want the doctor to finish a consultation. Then, depending on the guideline of each hospital, we might make some recommendation of which question may or may not be relevant to this situation. Every system is different, but I think the worst thing we want to do is in the medical context at least, is to move the clinical thinking process in a certain path while they are talking to their patient. And everything we're doing at the moment is really focusing on surfacing information, make things faster, but definitely not replacing the decision-making process at all. So compared to all the industry, health is a little bit more stringent and a bit more tough to crack. But at this stage, I think productivity is a key word for us, and building trust is the second most important thing. And regardless of what tool we are building into healthcare, as long as we're making sure that those are the two things that we're focusing on, usually the rest will follow. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. Yes, Shawn.
Do you mind if I just chime in on this, right? So I think first of all, on the trade-off between human and AI, right? I think first of all, as you guys have pointed out or alluded to, I think, the decision is not a binary one, right? So it's not as though we are saying we need to keep humans in charge and we don't use AI at all, nor are we saying, we let the machines take over, right? There are some things that AI can do very well. For example, they are good at execution, they're good at automation, they're good at optimization, speed, and all these things, right? What AI is not so good at is kind of dealing with ambiguity, assessing trade-offs, and making decisions that are contradictory to historical data, right? That they're trained on, right? So the question now is, when should humans take over and when should AI kind of do their thing, right? So I think the way that I think about it is, if you have asymmetric, kind of downsides, it helps to educate the, decision. So for example, if the cost of being wrong is small, then by all means, go and let the AI do it, right? If the cost of being wrong is existential, then naturally, you let humans take over, right? Because obviously AI is probabilistic. It does not understand consequence, but humans bear the consequence, right? And so, naturally, I think AI can help to a certain extent, but obviously if you have decisions that, in a way, are more sophisticated and have bearing on, let's say, other people's lives, then naturally humans should be the real decision maker and form that judgment factor there.
100% agree on that. For our case, the cost of making a mistake is almost testament to the fate of that family who needs a home.
Exactly.
That one, definitely you need to have human intervention.
Absolutely. Thank you. Harry, you guys, you've really been talking to me about human AI balance from a demo versus a production environment, which I thought was a very interesting perspective. How do you see this entire balancing of the automation with human judgment?
So I say like my job at Level 3 is making sure the AI agents be less impressive at demo and more reliable at production. And the reason for that is there's a difference between you are building a copilot for human to take the ultimate accountability, or you build an AI agent that actually more end-to-end, and your AI agent has to take the responsibility. And if I just focus on, if you build an AI agent, you go far, you let the AI agent take the responsibility, trust what Harry was saying is at the center of everything. And how this trust gets eroded is we don't have a measure of what is good, what is bad. So that success metric become super, super important. And at Level 3, we can only work on the use case. There is a very, very objective success measure. And the one we are working right now is customer engagement. In a way, is a very objective customer rating. We can all agree on, the whole industry can agree on. Then we can do apple-to-apple comparison. Is your AI agent actually perform better or worse than the human or than another AI agent? So I think that's the key for us to develop an AI agent. The success metric must be there. But that being said, who actually trains that AI agent is also not something autonomous. This is actually the job putting onto the bot manager, which always has to be a human. And contrary to a lot of people's belief, you deploy your AI agent, your life will be easier. Actually, the life for that bot manager, which used to manage human agents in call centers, his or her life actually become a lot harder. And that person cannot hand wave with human anymore because he or she has to instruct the AI in such a precise way. So your AI agent can do this end to end and actually deliver that success metric to you. So that's how we look at the whole human AI interaction.
I think that's a very, very interesting and important point. Tiang, I'm going to give the final question to you. We are almost out of time. Given all the experience that you've had being very hands-on with your investee companies, pre-GPD, and now in that era, what are the key lessons that you have learned? What are the pitfalls? What are 3 things that you would tell entrepreneurs today to be mindful of or do differently now that you know different on both sides?
I think it's always a good bet to bet on AI getting better and AI getting better faster, right? A lot of the things that we talk about, hallucination, not probabilistic and all that, is the nature of the AI, specifically LLMs today. But if you look back over the past 2 years, right? The MCP framework was launched early last year. And then Claude Skills was enabled late last year. And then SaaSpocalypse was just 2 weeks ago, right? When plugins were launching co-work. The Chinese OpenAI models are catching on really quickly too, actually. And and because it's open source, the cost of compute and the economics of that is fundamentally different from what we understand with OpenAI and Anthropic, right? And that presents a lot of, I think, net competition for AI development, state of the art, right? Net, I think it's always good to have the framework in mind if you're building software in general today, to bet on AI getting cheaper, better, smarter, and you build for 6, 9, 12 months from here, not what it is that it can do today.
I think that's a really, really important point. So, we've heard now from a very diverse set of leaders, and it's pretty clear that as they see it, AI has a role to play along with the humans. It's not intended to replace human judgment, but that also changes the leadership dimensions. How you hire people, whether you are going to make them close their eyes so they're not reading off of a screen, or how you retain the top talent in this space. How do you prepare organizations that they are going to change because the underpinning tech is going to get better and faster and cheaper all the time? How do you begin to work with traditional industries, be it in medical, in real estate, that can work with your front-end models, and that disrupts traditional models, but it also co-creates new models all at the same time? How the policies around this are going to keep changing. So leading in the age of AI is going to be a constant change navigation system. And it's going to be about looking for opportunities at the same time as you're looking to manage the differences that you have to deal with on a daily basis. I think we can take a couple of questions real quick if you have any from the audience. Yes, please. Someone is, I think, heading to you with a mic. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Hi, my name is Eugene. I'm with Foundry AI. My question is, what is the number one challenge in your opinion and observation for companies having trouble integrating and implementing AI solutions? And also, what is the main concern or like resistances that companies face when you're trying to help them integrate AI solutions?
Maybe I'll jump quickly onto that, and this is more in the healthcare, but the rest of the team can join in. So I think depend on your customer segment. Are you direct to consumer, or are you an enterprise-driven company, right? So if you're enterprise-driven company, then you got to think about integration and policies, which means you have to get that knocked out first before you even engage a customer. Otherwise, they won't even talk to you. That'll be the first question. If they can read the data, if you don't have quality assurance from the top end, they won't talk to you. But if you're direct to consumer, then there's a different point where if the product is good enough, Canva, Notion, you name them, best product, cheapest product in the market, then you may be able to bypass that to put that tool into the hand of the consumer, get feedback, and then you build your engine to enterprise. So I think the first question is really depending on who are you targeting. But regardless, if you look 2 years from now, come back to the first statement, the main barrier to AI adoption will be trust, integration, and government policies. You need all three of them for a very seamless go-to-market motion.
Shawn, one of you guys wanted to add something?
I would like to address that in terms of challenges for enterprise to adopt AI solution. I think the key challenge is trust. I think trust is a function of two things. The first thing is understanding of the AI solution itself. There are many senior executives in some of the enterprise, such as bank and developer, where the awareness level, understanding level is close to zero. So I think to bridge that trust gap and understanding gap, there will be a gestation period of education that is needed to educate them. What is AI technology? What can AI technology do for you? What have they done for other companies? I think that's one aspect. The second challenge, I think, would be in terms of the political stakeholder management. You have in a bank, you can be talking to 5 departments to 10 departments. Maybe one department have a vested interest to see implemented, but there's another department which see that as a negative thing for them. So then the challenge is how do you get all these different department and department head together to all align on the parameter on what AI can do for them or what AI cannot do for them. So I think the political maneuver around a big enterprise among different department heads is also another key challenge.
Yeah, go.
So this is the biggest challenge we see a lot of time is we don't know the quality metric. If you don't have a good quality metric, because AI will inherently give you efficiency. So don't worry efficiency. AI will be faster. AI can process so many things. But what is that quality metric that everyone can align on? Refer to a little bit about the politics about the company. Otherwise, there will always be a person cherry picking a certain conversation. Hey, it hallucinates, but human also hallucinates. It's not the point. Right? So what's that success metric? Is it CSAT score? Is it conversion rate? And a lot of time people also confuse with what is efficiency gain versus what is quality. But getting quality is so hard. It's like evaluating a human. And you have to ask yourself, the workflow I'm trying to use AI to automate, do we even know how to evaluate the human's work today? If that answer is no, we don't even know how to evaluate that human's work, then towards the end, it's going to be very, very challenging. It's your opinion versus my opinion. But getting that quality metric upfront, I think that's the key.
Great point. I think, Shawn, were you going down a
Yeah, no, I just wanted to talk about a bit more from a first principle standpoint, right? When you talk about integration and adoption, I think you should never do an overhaul all at once, right? What you want to do is focus on a specific workflow, try it, test it, see if it works, measure the outcome, and then expand to other things that are peripheral to that before, kind of overhauling the whole organization, right? What you want is basically a transformation that is iterative, sequential, and also measurable, right? You don't want it to be experimentation chaos, right? And I think that's what you want to do. Yeah.
Great. Clearly, this question struck a chord with our panel as a large. I can see Punita giving me the signal that it's time for us to wind up so we don't delay the proceedings. But thank you all for sharing all your perspectives so nicely and openly. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.